We've got another weird one today. The Starlancer Max, also at $250. Now, this made a decent chain previously if you had the terrapins, etc. for that one event, but it's still a little strange. So this one's a $20 discount. Again, same price point, $250 as the Ion, right? The Ion was a $15 discount for a $5 spend. This one's a $20 discount for a $5 spend if you go with something like the Raylin, which we know is going to increase in price, which is kind of messed up, Sig, to tempt people with the Raylin. So if you've got a non-Warbond CCU to the Raylin, you can absolutely use this. If you're not using the Raylin CCU that you have for a speculative purchase that's higher than $250, then maybe grab another Raylin. See, that's how they're making you double down on this one. I don't like this, Sig folks. This is unkind. How about that? I'm going to use the word unkind. This is unkind to people playing the CCU game because it's either making them double dip on the Raylin CCU, buying more than one, right? Specifically for this, and then one for the speculative purchase to lock this in, because they're going to have to get to the Raylin, because if they wait for this event to end, the Raylin price will increase, which hopefully doesn't mean you're spending $5 for a negative discount, so to speak, to the Starlancer Max, because if the Raylin goes up to $245, you're spending 5 for 5 effectively with a Warbond, which means you should have just bought it with SOAR credit or non-Warbond purchase, right, of some sort. Or this goes beyond the price of the Starlancer Max, which is what I'm anticipating. Again, just my guess is that this could go way higher because realistically alien tax, and it's competing against the C2 and M2 in effective cargo capacity. But hey, look, if they only make this a $250 ship, if they make the Raylin a $250 ship with the price increases that it will have, again, it's pretty much guaranteed to have 2 price increases from today, and they only make it a $250 ship, this will be the lowest price long hauler with that kind of cargo capacity of all the ships ever made. That would be an intriguing, very price efficient value for such a ship. I think it's going to go higher than 250. So again, unless you're locking in with a Raylin non-Warbond CCU today, which would be one of these, which is hilarious, the Terrapin, the Defender, or the Medic to the Raylin for $5, you better get this today if you're going to use the Warbond Raylin to Starlancer Max. This will net you a $20 discount on the Starlancer Max, and you can absolutely use it, but you better lock it in with another CCU to the Raylin just to complete this piece of your chain. Otherwise, if you want to go the safe route, which I'm not recommending because it's $10, again, $10 of spend for a $20 discount is still a 2-for-1 ratio. I like that. That's good. 5 for 20 is better, but you better lock it in, okay? So you could also do this. You could also do Defender. You could also do the Terrapin Medic. Hopefully you've picked up some of these in the past. If not, I'd probably lean towards a standard Terrapin out of all these, but you should have picked up one of both relatively recently. It was available the same time the Starlancer Max was available, right? Last IAE, I think. But I suppose if you just started playing this year, then you've got basically this event and previous Invictus. So you should probably go with the Raylin and then get something to Raylin. And if you're doing something to Raylin, I would still go with Terrapin or Terrapin Medic, and then Defender is the last choice. In that order. That's the way I would look at it. For me, I think my personal hangar has a Terrapin Medic that's available, so I would personally pick this one to the Raylin. I think I actually did that recently. Yes, see, I picked a Terrapin Medic to Raylin Standard Edition. I just grabbed this November 23rd, in fact, because I thought, well, I should probably have that for any other future chains. And really, realistically, I'm going to use this as a speculation, very likely to something higher priced, but we really got to see where this Raylin's going to end. Again, it's got 2 price increases coming. So expect it to increase probably more than $250, guys. Not an increase of $250. I think it will increase beyond a $250 mark, which is what you would count on for going beyond the Starlancer Max, but not necessarily to it unless you lock it in. So if you want to use Raylan to Starlancer Max, get a CCU to the Raylan. If you want to keep the Raylan CCU you've already purchased, because I told you to, and use that for some speculation, then don't put it in your chain or buy another one and then buy another link to it. You're going to have to lock in that link. Otherwise, you're going to pay a bunch of money to get to the Raylan in the future and then go back to the Starlancer Max if this fits into your chain, and then use a Starlancer Max to go into whatever ship you're going up next to. I guess you would gap fill to the Apollo Triage, really any of these. But I mean, you probably have Warbond CCUs to every one of these ships, right? If you've been playing this year. So not ideal. This one really isn't, it's the same place as the Ion. The $250 mark makes it a weird one. The $20 discount for this one makes it more appealing than the Ion, I suppose, but still it's in that $250 mark, which effectively makes it so you can't use any of the Warbonds you might have at the $260 mark. There you go. I did want to go over the concept ships you could still speculatively purchase today for a slight discount in the future. Most of the stuff down at $35, $40, or even $50 mark, you probably only get $5 worth of a discount, right? 5 for 5 kind of deal. So don't expect huge discounts if you buy them now, but you could lock in the price if you wanted to keep that vehicle, or if you wanted to use it in a CCU chain, $5 here, $5 there, $5 there, it all adds up, right? It's just expect gap fills if you're buying something this inexpensive in the store to use in a CCU chain, up to something until you hit about the $100 mark of the Hawk that we were just talking about for a Warbond CCU 2. Rangers first up. There are 2 price points for the Rangers. I'm not going to cover all 3 vehicles. I'll do the same with the G12s. It's just price point we're looking at here. $35 for the Ranger RC. We also have the Ranger TR at $40, the MDC at $45. This is not a concept vehicle. This is a Warbond. So the MDC still has a Warbond. This is the LTI token for this year that's as cheap as humanly possible. Again, the Wolf Alpha is another one to be debated at the $100 mark, $105 for the Warbond discount, of course. So MDC is the cheapest LTI token you can get during this event. Salvation, the next cheapest LTI token you can get for this event. This one's at $55. The G12 is a concept vehicle. You could speculate on this one going up. I think maximum for this is like $80. More realistically, it's going to be a 5 for 5. It'll just hit 70, something like that. But because Origin and because ground vehicle with weapons on it, maybe it hits 80. I don't know. This is another concept vehicle for the G12. It's missile launcher military variant, but it is a $65 start ship. So maybe it goes to 75, maybe it goes to 85. We don't really know. If you buy it now, you'll at least get a $5 increase out of the ship. That is a discount, so we're looking at it for a concept speculation here. The Golem Ox is available for Warbond today, so it is a discount, maybe an LTI token, or maybe if you just want it to buy outright, I suppose. No Warbond CCU for it, but it is a discount, so it's something to look at. Same thing for the Alpha Wolf. There's a Warbond discount here. The 105 price point here is with that Warbond standalone discount built in. This may be where you want to start your LTI tokens this year, but you could start lower and then speculate, or just do a gap fill for any of those others. The Shiv, again, Warbond discount today at $135, same price as a Clipper, just making you aware that the standalone ship has a discount as well. Here's the same thing for the Clipper, $135, same discount. There you go. I think we've speculated a lot about this concept ship. It could double in price. It might only go to $195. I'm kind of counting on the $210 mark. We'll see where it goes. It's $140 now. If you buy a CCU to it, I think you could reap some decent rewards in discounts. So I say add this to your hangar if you can as a CCU. The E1 Spirit. People forget that this thing exists. It is still in concept. You could get a concept price to it. It's a $150 ship. So you're looking at a $5 CCU from the Razor to it. I think that's a pretty solid choice. I think that's a solid choice to this E1 Spirit if you want to speculate. I would guess it's probably going to increase $25 or so. So if you're going to speculate to something that's $180, this is probably a good bet. The Zeus MR also in concept. I'm guessing the ship is pretty much done, but they're going to save it for a release of some sort of new gameplay. Could be Bounty Hunting 2.0, not really sure, but this could release nearly any time in the future. So it's $190 now. This is easily a $25 increase based on what the previous Zeus's increased their prices for. So bet on something like $215, $210, $220 maybe, in that range somewhere on this one. The Raylan, I really don't know for sure where this thing's going to go. This is the weirdest one we've had. I think basically it was just underpriced in its infancy, in its concepting, before they really started looking at it. And then they realized with some cargo improvements that they could get double the cargo capacity. The price on this one could go anywhere. I would definitely invest in a couple to the Raylan if you want to go to a higher price ship of any magnitude above 250 or even at the $250 mark, because this could really do anything. The price on this one is so wide, so different from where it is now, that I'm not really sure how to point it to a specific dollar amount. Again, realistically, it could go from anywhere from $250 all the way to $450 for crying out loud because of its competition today. It's still concept. They can change the price to whatever they want. They could drop it $100 if they really wanted to, but even at $250, guys, this would be a killer value for a dedicated cargo ship. I would snatch one up. I may actually build myself a Raylan if it stops at $250, just because it'll be the value play for cargo hauling. The Stinger has a Warbond discount today as well. This is a standalone ship. Just bringing it to everybody's attention because I didn't really cover all of the ships that had a standalone discount this year. I kind of shied away from that because I'm really focusing on the CCU game. But if that's something you're interested in, this does have a discount. The Paladin also has a Warbond discount. It's only giving 10 years of insurance for it. It's not a brand new ship, but it's a hell of a heavy combat ship, and it does have a slight discount for a standalone. The Endeavor is a decent concept ship to speculate on. It's an industrial type ship, so if you're into that, or if you just want to use it in a CCU chain, expect this to increase anywhere from $50 to $100, maybe more. I think it's one of those niche ships that won't see a massive increase in price. So don't count on this thing going to like $700. At least I wouldn't bet on that. Again, the range I mentioned is probably reasonable for the Endeavor. The Crucible, also a very niche ship. This is a repair ship for industrial use. Again, I don't see this going to something like $700 or something crazy like that. This is probably a $50 to $100 price increase, just based on the dollar amount of $350 and the fact that it's a niche ship. But you can definitely count on an increase, so we can use it in the CCU game for speculation. The Galaxy is a weird one. It's already $380. I believe it's already had a price increase. This is going to be a very, very versatile ship with a bunch of value packed into it, especially if they start adding additional functionality to the ship because of what it is. It already has different modules available for purchase in the store. If they do something like if they do what they did with the Apollo series and just give you some of those modules, which would be amazing, not counting on it, but if they did that upon release, wow, the value could increase significantly, which also means the price would increase upon release. This thing could go anywhere from like $425 to $500 is my estimation. If we find out more, if they do a behind the ships kind of informational session before its release, we may be able to lock that down into a more accurate price point. But right now it's a pretty wide range. But at least count on $20, guys. If you buy a $5 CCU to the Galaxy right now in concept, you can at least guarantee a $20 discount with that CCU. The Genesis, no idea when it's going to come out, when they're going to start working on it, or when the gameplay around it will eventually come out. I don't even really want to speculate on price because we just don't know. This might be a weird one that just stays at 400, maybe a slight increase to 425 or something. It's too far into the future to even guesstimate where this one will go. But if you wanted to buy a CCU to it, you could. But I'm not sure where it will go in price point and how much that will actually benefit you. So keep it in mind for future state. When we get any kind of information about it being worked on, then we'll start kind of looking at where the price may go. The Ironclad, we just had a Warbond for it. So that's why I'm bringing it up, but it's also a concept ship. So if you're betting on it increasing in price, I think $50 to $100 easy for this one. Same thing goes for the Ironclad Assault. Both of those are going to increase by somewhere in the interesting $50 to $100 price point. Could be more for the Assault, could be 125 or so. It doesn't really have direct competition besides another concept ship that I'll get to in a little bit. But I think you can count on this one going anywhere from a $525 to $550 price point. I think it's reasonable to expect that. So the Hull D still in concept. We'll see what happens with the value based on the drop of the D and E's cargo capacity. I think, again, makes sense for the game, makes sense just for the stress load on a server, makes a lot of sense for all things except the price people are paying for it. Now look, at the $550 mark, we're talking about competing against something like the Raylin at 640 SCU of cargo. This blows the Raylin out of the water for cargo capacity, even in its reduced state. So I think 550 is still low for the Hull D. I think $100 increase on this is pretty minimal, even with the reduction in cargo capacity. I see this as a $650 to $700 ship, maybe as high as a $750, but I wouldn't want to use that for speculating into a ship that high. But this one's in a weird place too because of the reduction in cargo versus, and really it's a political decision, right? You don't want to piss off a bunch of users because of the huge reduction in cargo value, but at the same time, the cargo, the SCU capacity that they gave, which is like still 6,000 or something, is still massive. It's still not competitive to a ship like the Raylin, even if the Raylin hits $450, right? It's not competitive with the C2, which we know is already out at the $400 range. This is easily a $550 ship based just on cargo carrying capacity. It's probably going to be a $650 to $700 ship when it releases. The Arastra, I'm really not sure on this one, guys. I just don't know. It's going to be packed with value, plus it's a mining ship. It's really tough to gauge where this value will be. I think as it gets closer to release, it's probably going to be easier to tie down where it will be. But if you wanted to grab one of these non-Warbond concept price CCUs today, probably a good way to speculate. Liberator, this is the only real competing ship effectively with the Ironclad Assault. I know they're very different use cases, right? This one's basically just a ship and or vehicle transport. The Ironclad Assault could absolutely be used for tank transport, etc. They've talked about that very specifically. So there's some overlap, even though not direct competitors. $575, I think, is more reasonable price point for these two ships, but we know it's a concept, so we're going to see an increase in price. This is easily a $25 increase, maybe $50, maybe $100 increase for this ship as well. Again, it's very niche. The more niche a ship is and the less additional value they pack into it, the less price increase we should see based on rational thought, but this is going to be a different kind of ship than the Drake ship, right? Most likely PDCs, most likely faster, more maneuverable. Obviously, we're looking at a very specific use case too. It's not going to be a cargo and vehicle hauler. We don't really know what else is really going to be in there. Still very early concept, but price increase is guaranteed. If you look at it this way, you're looking at a whole D $25 payment right now for no price increase. If it only increases by $25, then you're a 1-for-1 ratio. Maybe not so great, right? But if you're building a chain with a bunch of different concepts in this price range up to something like the Liberator, well, we don't really have many options now. So the hope is, if you're speculating on the Liberator, that you bought a $25 CCU to it and it goes up by at least 50, hopefully 100. We have a battle of the thoughts here, right? On the CCU game, we want to get to those higher price ships for less money. So if the Liberator goes up by $100 and you spent 25, that's a killer deal. But at the same time, the Liberator now costs $675, so we don't necessarily want that, right, for the health of the game. So again, I really try and look at this from the CCU game standpoint, not the overall health and price point of the ships themselves, right? So yeah, the $675 Liberator to me is completely outrageous and I'd never pay it. But that's why I play the CCU game and bet on the price increasing and locking in a discount ahead of time. So back to the hypothesis here, I think the Liberator is going to go easily for $25. I think we're realistically looking at a $675 to $690 ship. Again, that's just my opinion. The Merchantman, who the hell knows? I've said for a while, I think the Merchantman is very likely to be the highest price ship that you can CCU to. And I think it's going to go beyond the Polaris. I think there's going to be so much value packed into it that it outweighs the military capabilities of the Polaris. But again, we don't even know. They're not developing it yet. Maybe it'll hit the roadmap in 2026. Maybe it won't. We just don't know. So if you want to, I mean, this not only is concept still, it gets Warbonds at least every year once. So if you want to bet on it going higher, or if you want to purchase one, lock in the price at $650 now if you haven't already. And, or you could, I don't know if this is going to be a good one to use as a concept to price into another ship's chain, because I really do think this is going to be one of the highest value ships as far as price point goes. You may not be able to use it in a CCU to another ship eventually. I'm going to recommend that you hold it, that you purchase it and hold it. If you're going to try and use it in another chain, may not be the best value for doing something like that. All right, so the Orion, biggest kind of ship we have in the game for mining. It's going to be massive, insanely large, etc. However, there may be knock-on effects for this ship with cargo. And again, at $650, it's just a mining ship. I don't think they plan on a lot of other things happening with this thing. It's just a massive mining ship. They're going to have to add gameplay for massive rocks for this thing to crush. You're going to mine for hours probably on very, very large rocks and then go in. You're not going to be able to get anything that's super high volatility in this thing. That makes no sense unless you've got some sort of supply chain built, like an org type event. Very niche gameplay is what I'm trying to say here. It's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of money to run it, and it's going to take you time to fill it to cargo capacity or build some sort of a relay system where you have cargo ships coming in and grabbing off of it as it's mining out in some massive asteroid field. Very niche ship, but it's also going to be expensive. We know that this is going to increase in price. Again, there may be knock-on effects with the cargo capacity stuff. It looks like it's very similarly laid out to the whole series. $650, of course it's going to increase. Again, this may be one of those ships that you don't want to speculate in another chain to, but if you want it, you should lock in the $650 price point from the Carrack. I think that's going to cost you $50. Yep, $50 from the Carrack to the Orion. That's what it'll cost you now. And if you want to lock in that price, I think you should. If it increases by $100, we're talking about only 2 ships available to CCU2. So if you bought every concept CCU from basically the Ironclad all the way up to something like the Nautilus, I think you'd be covered. But let's say the Orion goes to only $700, only $100 increase. You're going to limit yourself. If it goes up by $150, you're at the $800 mark, which means you have 1 ship to CCU to. Now, of course, all of these other concept ship prices are going to increase as well. and something may fall into line above the $800 mark that isn't the Polaris that you could use this in. So maybe, but again, if you're trying to use the Orion in a chain to get to some higher price ship, you're going to be very limited in your choices. I'm not going to recommend this for that purpose. If you want to buy the Orion and have it as the final link in your chain, definitely lock in the price now. It's going to be a very, very risky speculation to use it in another ship's chain. Just want to call that out. And we get to the Odyssey. So I think the Odyssey is the other ship in the game that will give the Banu Merchantman a run for its money for the most expensive ship in game that you can CCU to. Ships that you have to buy outright, like the Kraken or something, I don't think that plays a role here. We're talking about just CCUable ships. I think this one may be the one that unseats the Banu Merchantman. This may be the most expensive ship in game that you can actually CCU to. I think this and maybe the BMM just might be the ships that basically break the code for RSI. They've stated in the, or SIG, sorry, not RSI, SIG. They stated in the past that there won't be any ships that you can CCU to that cost more than $1,000. The Polaris is a $975 ship. They basically tapped out that market. I think that this or the Banu Merchantman may go beyond $1,000. It's totally possible. So again, not a great ship to use in another ship's chain. And look, maybe it only increases by $100 and it's at the $800 mark. But guess what? That means you're going to have 2 or 3 ships to CCU to from this in the future. I don't think that's a great speculation play. I think if you want the Odyssey, you lock it in with buying the non-Warbond concept price CCU now, but I wouldn't necessarily kind of fit this into another chain going to something like the Perseus or something like the Polaris. I don't think that's a good play. The Nautilus also falls into that kind of, I wouldn't speculate on the Nautilus going to another ship category. I think this is probably an 8 to 825 ship, maybe 850. It's extremely niche. I'm not sure how useful it's going to be in the game. Quite frankly, folks, I'm not sure how they're going to implement the play for this ship. This is a mine-laying ship. Are we really going to have things that you leave behind in the verse forever? Like, I don't know who I was talking to about this. It might have been in chat. It might have been one of the folks that I was helping with a Fix My Chain episode that I don't know if I'm going to post. I wasn't really asking if I could post it, kind of thing. So imagine this. You lay some mines, and then 5 days later, all of a sudden, you have like a CS10 crime stat because you killed a bunch of people that happened to have accidentally run into your minefield. Like, I'm not sure how they're going to implement that kind of gameplay where you can leave mines behind. Now, if it's a very specific area where you're allowed to lay mines, I think this concept works. I think this ship will release as intended. But how you do that, basically it would be what? Base defense, I guess, which is unfortunate for folks that are spending $725 minimum on a ship that they can use it in only a very small area. I'm very interested to find out more about how they intend on deploying this type of gameplay before I want to offer any type of a speculation on where this ship can really go, because it's just weird, folks. I'm not sure how they're going to implement it. Perseus still has a Warbond, so I brought it in. It has a standalone price Warbond if you're not playing the CCU game, so you can still get it as a discount. And that pretty much ends all of our standalone and concept ship pricing info session, I guess. It's not a little bit of strategy tossed in there, but we don't have all the ships available for Warbond discounts and standalones, but I did want to put them in because, quite frankly, somebody asked me about it. They said, hey, I'd like to know about that. So there you go. I think others have been listed. We had the L22 available. There were different specialty ones that were available throughout the week. Next IAE, I will ensure that I cover the standalone prices as well, especially with the LTI tokens. I probably should have covered that earlier because of how the CCU game has changed with kind of price points, anything below $100, right? Well, 100, 125 at this point, right? So yeah, next year I will cover that. I will also cover that on future events, Luminella, whatever comes up there, Red Festival, IAE, etc. Invictus, of course. So I guess that's it. The last day of the expo. It looks like there was a bug yesterday. They didn't mean to remove the kiosks from the expo center. They are back. I'm hoping that they will be back until about 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, the 3rd. The 3rd is the end of the event. My guess is some of the ships will maintain their Warbond and standalone discount pricing in the store past that for a little while. Traditionally, that's what they do. My guess for those is going to be the MDC, the Salvation, and the L22. My guess is the standalone prices will stay a little bit longer than the Warbonds. I would not count on them after that time on the 3rd, which is tomorrow. So just buy them now, guys. Don't tempt fate. Don't risk the FOMO, so to speak. And, well, I don't know. I hope you got some CCU chains completed this year. I hope the repeats that we had didn't pain us too much. For those of us playing the CCU game for a long time, I hope the repeats didn't hurt us too much. And I hope that the folks just joining got to take advantage of those repeats because maybe they didn't see them before. So the CCU game definitely changing, folks, but it's clear that we're still going to be able to get at least 40% off most ships by playing the CCU game. Probably more if we get some really good change out there. I still think 60%, maybe eking up to 70% is still viable and possible. But you're going to have to start using referral rewards and or stuff you won from other giveaways and whatnot, I'm sure. I don't think we should expect any Warbond CCUs below basically the $125 price point, which is effectively C1 territory, right? Maybe they'll offer us a Cuddy Black. Maybe they'll give us something like the Hawk again. But realistically, I think those days are done. So from now on, you should plan on building out some gap payments just to fill the need from whatever LTI token you're going to use, whether that's a referral reward or a purchased MDC or something, to something like the wherever the Warbonds end for the $125 price ships. Maybe depending on discount, right? It could be anywhere from $100 to $115 or so. Maybe they only offer a 5 for 5. Maybe it's a 5 for 10. We'll know when they come out in the future. You should plan on that price gap getting filled by something. Maybe store credit, maybe additional spend right before 1.0 so we can actually apply all of these CCU chains to the ships we actually want in the verse when this thing goes into live environment 1.0. That's it for this one, guys. I am all worded out. You have a great rest of your week. If anything pops up, of course, I will keep you in the loop. That's it for me. Zi-Tek, out.